How do I find Luke? Where's Luke at? Matthew, Mark,
Friend, if you
Luke.
can't find Luke by this time, we need to go back to the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, we need to go back to Bible school, 2nd grade. That's it.
Well, I have a question. Do you guys have all those verses pulled up?
I've got a chart in my Bible. Kinda, yeah.
I have James, Roman, and Luke. And I think it'd be nice to start off with, let's just read through all those passages and then jump into it. Are you guys good with that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what's our goal here? What's the dilemma we're dealing with? I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on that.
Well, the podcast outline is what I'm going off of. And it says hearing versus living the word. And Kent gave us a core problem, so I figured we'd just jump into that.
Yeah.
But seriously, I would like to read all these verses because I haven't had any time to really. It's been a crazy day. Been a good day. It was a really cool experience that I had today. But maybe I'll get into that throughout the evening. But however, so Kent, you gave us this outline. Do you want to give a little quick overview, and then we jump into reading these verses, and then we can just fire off from there, start rolling, or what you think?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So I think us three have had conversations around this quite a bit, and it kind of really started working on me. Like, so there's tons of information out here, plenty of good theology. You can listen to so many different preachers, podcasts. There's lots and lots of information out there, and you can kind of get information overload in a way, and it can become almost, I don't know, you start taking this stuff for granted. It's the passion isn't there. It yeah. And what so it's good information. It's all out there. We need to hear good information to grow as a person, to grow as a Christian. What is the difference between just sitting there listening to good information all day and actually this playing out in our lives, this actually impacting our life? What happens there? I think that in my mind, that's kind of the dilemma that I was dealing with. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it sounds very right to me. I think we can all relate with that. I think everyone who's been a Christian for a while can relate to that, where when you first hear the gospel, you first are captivated by the gospel and you fall in love with Jesus and you realize that Jesus is in love with you. There is something that transforms your heart and your
Yeah,
passions and your life, and you're excited, you're on fire, you're enthused, and you are in love with Jesus. And
that's
then
right.
what happens is we're living in this nasty now this old world with all of its lusts and sin and enticements and distractions, and that passion, we lose that passion. And so I think as a believer, that is the heart of every believer, is how can I stay passionate for the Lord? So I love that introduction, and I'd like to jump into reading some of these verses that we want to go through tonight. um I'm going to start here. I'll read, if you guys are okay with that, I'll read these first three passages, starting in James 1, 22 through 25. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and he goes away and once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. And then let me jump in over here. Romans 12, 1 and 2. Paul is writing to the Romans. He says this in regards to a living sacrifice. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of our God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. And do not be conformed into this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God and what is good and acceptable and perfect. And I'm sure we'll come back to this, but I'd love to talk about what does that mean to actually renew our minds. And then in Luke 6, let me read this parable of the house on the rock. And why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not what I tell you? For everyone who comes and hears the words and does them, I will show you to whom he is like. I will show you what he is like. He is like a man who is building the house, um, who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when the flood rose and the streams broke against that house, and it could not shake because it was built well. But the one who hears and does not do them is like a man who builds on the ground without a foundation. When the stream broke against it, immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great.
I that Romans 12, 1-2, I'm trying to find this other version. I come across it in a different version. I can't find it now. But it talked about how that you needed to think different. You needed to change your way of thinking.
Mhm.
Like I don't know, it's just kind of the way I worded it. It really inspired me. It's so much down the line of what I've been learning in the last few years, just about personal growth. That the answer is not doing something different; it's being something different. It's being somebody different, changing how you think about things. I can't find it right off, but anyway,
And changing the way you think's a hard thing to do. That doesn't happen overnight.
for sure.
That's something that I was thinking about after we decided we were going to talk about this tonight. Because well, there's a verse that I got to thinking about. Trying to remember where that verse is at.
While you're finding that,
So
I hope I don't derail this,
go ahead and say it.
but
I'll find this.
I found the version. Brothers and sisters, in view of all we have just shared about God's compassion, I encourage you to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, dedicated to God and pleasing to Him. This kind of worship is appropriate for you. And then the second verse here, don't become like the people of this world. Instead, change the way you think. Then you will always be able to determine what God really wants, what is good, pleasing, and perfect. And I don't know about y'all, but when it says change the way you think, I think we all know this, that that's not really in our power to
No,
actually
it's
change it.
not. It is not in our power. Let me tell you what I did today. That's why I earlier I said Jesus is better than Xanax, and I was I got kind of balled up inside today a little bit because, as y'all know, I just got back from not working for a week and a half. Had an intense week, and then how it works. You get home and there's all this work you got to do, and all these people wanting stuff done. And I have office work that I'd let kind of slide a little bit. And then I realized there were a couple of checks that I didn't think I had got for some jobs I did previously, and so I called the company up, the real estate company. I said, "Hey, I don't think I got these checks." And they said, "Well, we think we gave them to you." And I didn't. I knew I didn't have them deposited, and there was just a bunch of stuff, right? And I was riding down the road, and man, I was really feeling stressed and anxious. It just how that tight feeling in your chest, or too much to think about. And I was like, man, I was feeling pretty miserable. And I was riding down the road, and so I just started praying out loud, and I told Jesus, I said, "This is how I'm feeling." I said, "And I know you can take care of all this stuff." And just a short prayer, not very long, but I prayed out loud, which is really hard for me to do. I don't know why, but it's really hard, but I did it. And I got to my office, and I sent an email. Like, I talked on the phone to the real estate company, but then I sent them an email because I was like, I want to make sure they're thinking about this, making sure that this is all good. And and then I went and I started working, and it didn't change right away, but within an hour, about an hour later, I realized, you know what, I feel good. I ain't stressed about anything anymore. And I was like, and just what you said, Kent, that you can't do that by yourself. You have to change the way you think,
Yeah.
and Jesus is the one that can change the way you think, but you have to ask him. I had to get humble enough to say in my truck, I had to say, "Jesus, here's where I'm at. This is how I'm feeling. I'm all balled up about this. I don't know how it's all supposed to come together." And then he did. Not immediately, but he did his thing. He came through, and
Yeah.
it was Jesus. But I cannot tell you how many times I don't do that. I keep riding down the road, and I get to work, and you go home and you're stressed out, and you snap at your family maybe because you didn't do the little thing there of asking for help. I'm not sure if that applies to this discussion, but it sure worked today.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
It,
I am convinced that one of the most powerful prayers that I can pray in my life is to ask Jesus to help me do the things that I can't do on my own.
Mhm.
Like, but and I think it's just the humility of saying, I can't do this. I need your
Right.
help. And
Admitting you
I'm
can't handle
coming
it.
to you acknowledging that I actually, see this and I want change, but I also know that you know, I don't even feel like it. A lot of times you don't even feel like loving somebody or doing something that you should be doing. So just asking Jesus, and then like you said, it might not be in the moment, but an hour later, all of a sudden, something
Yep.
happened, and that's pretty powerful. So,
And I almost think
I,
it's better for it not to happen immediately because he's not fast food. We don't just put an order and it clicks, you know?
mhm.
I think a little patience I think it's good for us to have to wait on the Lord a little bit sometimes.
Quality is usually a lot better if you let the food cook a little longer.
That's right.
So, but you're on the edge of your chair, can't spit it out.
I like so the next passage was John 15. I really like the where, like, you read James, you read uh Romans, and if you don't if you don't understand the gospel, if you don't really, or okay, let's take that away. If you're a human who depends on his performance, which is
Most human.
100% of us, you can read James and Romans and you can read some of these passages and you can think that you just need to do better.
Mhm.
You need to work harder.
Yep.
And I love the focus on this. I'll read it out of John 15, 1-8. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. If every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Why are you clean? It,
Because of his
I don't
word.
think it had, yeah, because of his word. Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. Like,
Uh-huh.
he pretty much kicks any props out that you've got about your own performance
Mhm.
being your power. Um, I am the vine, you are the branches. Like, that's pretty clear, right? Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing.
Emphasis on
If it,
nothing.
yeah, if anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers. Um, Shoot, I'll just keep on and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. By this, my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit and so prove to be my disciples.
Mhm. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't really leave any room here for me being able to take any credit.
So I got man, I don't know. I'm not sure how this whole podcast thing is supposed to work because I feel like there's so many rabbit trails to go down. But what you just said there, Kent, well, and what you said about changing the way you think, and then those verses, I had this experience at church Sunday. And on one hand, it's very elementary, very basic, but on the other hand, it was profound. So I'm sitting there we've had a couple of songs, worship songs, and they were great and everything. And then um, communion is done differently by different people sometimes, but often the worship pastor leads us in communion, and he did this Sunday, and he's he spoke a little bit about where it says you shouldn't take partake unworthily, and I think that both of you know how that has been in the past where we
Mm,
came from. And so as soon as he started talking, I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be good because I'm gonna see what he's got to say about this. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember I remember the impression that I got as he was speaking is that basically what he was saying is that when we recognize our sinfulness and our need of Christ, it is that makes us worthy. And I was like, boy, that's so that's so awesome that that's what it is. And so when I was writing in my little book there, and I wrote down that what makes us unworthy is to cover up or try to hide our sin and not admit we're sinful and not admit we need Christ. Then you're unworthy if
mhm.
you're going to sit there and claim you don't need Christ because you're not a sinner. But I thought back to the many times of sitting and visiting with the leadership of the church, and there's a certain maybe them proving whether you're worthy or not, and then doing the same with the congregation and and them maybe trying to understand whether you're worthy or not. Then I thought of how this worship pastor said it's Christ and your admission of your need for Christ that makes you worthy. I don't know, it was a blessing for me Sunday to hear that. And
Man,
it
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, you got to change the way you think. And I would not have thought I was still stuck a little bit in that old way of thinking, but the only reason that his words were profound to me is because I was still a little bit stuck back there and I needed to hear that and be drawn away from works toward grace again. And I didn't even know it. I didn't sit there knowing I didn't even know I needed it. But I did, and God did that for me. Good stuff. Anyway, I'm enthused about that. There's something else I'm gonna shut up for a minute. I talk for too much. I talk too much. Go ahead.
Well, I think you can just keep on going, but I remember the first time I heard that concept,
Mhm.
or I heard communion brought in that way. And I don't like the term triggers, but there's I maybe have one or two here and there. And so yeah, I'm definitely listening out for that kind of thing being brought about our performance.
Yeah.
But the whole communion thing, that verse, like, it was hard to understand for me for a long time about, examining yourselves and making sure that you don't eat and drink unworthily. And the first time I heard that, it was it was like it was like a drink of cold water on a really, really hot day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was so enthusing to realize, oh, you know what? It's not about me.
No,
It's not about what I've done. It's not about
no.
whether I've got it right.
We're
And now I've
repentant
finally
enough.
I've confessed all my sins. I can't think of one sin I haven't confessed. I've cleared my way with every single person I can think of. And if I did somebody wrong, I've tried to take care of it. And now finally, I'm ready to go and
Preach,
have
man,
communion.
preach.
And I spent 40 years thinking that
I
way.
know.
And oh
And then
man,
you know
when you
what
realize,
happens? You
and what does that do for you? It doesn't take away your desire to do righteous deeds. It doesn't do that at all. It actually makes you do it out anyway. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say you replace 1,000 eyes. I confessed, I repented, I cleared my way, I did you replace all these eyes with one he. That
That's
Yeah,
good.
and then you're good.
Yeah.
Man, I'm with you that like, it's so refreshing. Drink a cold water
yeah.
on a hot day. Amen.
And
And
I was
so
just
this
thinking while both you guys were talking, I mean, what a gift God's church is to us, where a pastor or a brother or somebody will share the good news of the gospel instead of I think too many too many times in my life I've focused on the negative and instead of seeing what a gift that is, but what a gift to be able to go and hear that and be reminded of that. And I'm just so convinced that in line with our topic this evening of hearing versus living, like it really does come down to, I think for many of us, I mean, we have to ask ourselves this question: where would we be without the church, without community, without fellowship, without brothers and sisters that are going to remind us of those things and point us, I think God used me today to encourage a lady that came into my office and was really struggling and was able to pray with her. And I hope I could be that gift to her today. She was going through some tough stuff. And, I think that's what it's really about. And I think the more, like you said, Frank, that we get our vision off of I and put it on he,
Mhm.
um, I think it really does actually bring the passion for living Christian life. It really does change things in a really big way.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah, and you know what's so interesting? Well, I think what you just said there, Alex, it's part of the answer to your question, Kent, of how we go from just hearing to doing. And some of it has to do with the encouragement of like going to church and being encouraged by the people that are around us. And the hearing is what we do when we listen to the sermon. But when you actually know the people, I'm not saying you have to know every person you go to church with, but when you have a group of people that you know and that you talk to every week and that they can check in with you and whatnot, that's pretty good. And it seems like they help you put things into practical application in your life. So there's something else here I want to throw in. I think it fits in here, but that first verse you read, Alex, in James, it says, but the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, he will be blessed in his doing. But that phrase where it says the perfect law, and then it says the law of liberty, those two words together really struck me. A law of liberty, because most of the time we don't think of law as being. I mean, law is a binding force. We don't think of that as being liberty, but here he says it is. I thought that was interesting.
Think about all the laws that we live by. I mean, the the whole world is held together by a certain law of God, right?
Hmm.
Like if the oxygen content wasn't precise in the air that it is, nitrogen versus oxygen, we'd
Yep.
die immediately. And if the sun wasn't the certain distance away from the earth, we'd die immediately. The whole world is held together by God's perfect laws, and there's all kind of laws. And I think that's is that more the way to process the word law instead of thinking of it as like things we can't do or boundaries. It's more of, I think, God's order, like his perfect order of and in that I think there's liberty, and I don't know. I haven't really processed that or thought through that, but I do think that laws might be one of those words that all three of us uh could say might be a little triggering.
Oh yeah.
We don't want to live under no law. God set us free from the laws, and so then we hear the word law, I think sometimes it's easy to focus on that, but I do think that there is, yeah, there's probably a whole study we could do on those, a word study on
Hmm.
that passage, really.
Yeah, because what you're saying is true. Without the laws of physics, nothing would work.
Mhm.
So God created those laws for a reason. Yeah, but yeah, that may be a whole discussion all by itself there. But I liked that because it did give me a little different impression of what the law might be when coupled together with the word liberty there.
This is interesting. So I just quick pulled up Precept Austin on that verse. I think we could do a word study on that whole passage because I think it'd be really good. Um, because once again, if you don't understand the gospel, if you don't read the verse out of Luke, was it Luke or John, about Jesus being the vine and you can only win, you can only live the Christian life if you're in Him. If you don't really understand that, this verse would seem like it would say, oh boy, you look into the perfect law of liberty, which is going to tell you how to live, and now you just need to live it,
Follow the
which
formula.
which is true. You do need to live it. You just don't do a very good job of it, or at least I've struggled with it once or twice in my life. um,
Don't say.
so yeah, what does that actually mean? Looking into the perfect law of liberty, I love the visual that gives. Like, you look into a mirror to see if your face is dirty,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't take the mirror off the wall and wash your face with it.
Mm-hmm. Has no
So
power for
it
cleansing you.
no, it does tell you where you're screwed up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's an interesting verse.
There's a question that I have in regards to the word unbelief. You could have two people that said they believe in Jesus and that he is the son of God, but one man's life doesn't change and another man lives his life passionately in pursuit of, Christ and his kingdom. So, but they both actually would say they believe that Jesus was the son of God. But we'd call one an unbeliever and we'd say one was an actual believer. So I think there is something to actually you know, not just being a hearer, but being a doer. So I'd like to explore that with you guys a little bit. What does that look like? What's your thoughts
Well,
on that, Corinne?
I'm glad you brought that up because I had this question written down. This is something that I've mulled over for the last probably 6 or 7 years. And is it possible to believe something? And I mean, when I say believe something, I mean really sincerely believe it. I'm not talking about just claiming to believe it or anything like that. Is it possible to genuinely, sincerely believe something, but not act on it? Because there's a part of me wants to argue that the way to tell what somebody believes is to look at their actions, say, okay, their actions tell me they believe this. And that's the only reliable way to know what somebody believes. You can't listen to what they say. But is that true? Is it possible to genuinely believe something but not act on it? Like if I say I genuinely believe in Jesus Christ and what the word of God says about him, can I really believe that but not change my life if I'm living in sin? And know I'm living in sin, and I'm like, I believe it, but I just won't change.
Well, is it possible to cognitively know something and then to actually, I don't know, to know something with your heart versus knowing something with your mind? Because I think that there's things that I know in my mind. I know that eating certain things are unhealthy for
Mm,
me. I know that. It's an undeniable truth. I can
yeah.
completely agree that that's true. But I mean, would you say that if I really believed it, that I'd never eat it again?
Well,
That
okay, what it tells me is that you believe the short-term pleasure is more valuable than the long-term benefit of not eating it.
right?
To me, it
Even
reveals
if I
your true
acknowledge that
belief.
it's bad for me.
Yeah, I agree it's bad with you, bad for you. I know you know it's bad for you, but what it tells me is that the short-term pleasure is worth it to you.
Right.
And I'm not gonna argue with you. I got some sweet tea in my cup right there.
Yeah.
I should be drinking unsweet, but I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit, and so I'm having this sweet tea tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know, tastes real good.
But here's the other thing. If you hadn't have just admitted that you had fallen off the wagon and you were trying to tell us that, hey, I'm trying to lose 30 pounds and
Yeah,
run a marathon, like, um, you probably wouldn't have that sweet tea in your cup right
I
now,
sure
would you?
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Y'all want to run a marathon?
No.
Yeah, I'd
Okay,
like
but
to.
I'm going to tell you, I want to. I'm not ready to commit yet. I will tell you, I have a theory that I want to run past you, and you can tell me what you think of this. I think it's possible that it takes a while for humans to change. And so I think it's possible that as we're going through life, we have believed one thing and we begin to believe something else. We begin to, maybe let's just use Jesus for an example, that you haven't believed in him really, and you start let's say you meet some Christians, some real Christians, and all of a sudden you realize these people are different than all these other professing Christians that don't really live like Jesus. And you're like, oh, these people are for real. And they're walking the walk. And I want to be like them. Well, I think that a human goes through this period of, there's going to be some cognitive dissonance included. There's going to be a period of time where their belief is ahead of their actions. But I'm pretty convinced that what you genuinely believe slowly changes your actions over time, and your actions follow that belief. I think that's how it works. I don't think you can live all of your life believing that you're going to burn in eternal hellfire if you do this or don't do that or whatever your belief is, and not change that belief. If you genuinely believe that, I think you're going to change. That's my theory.
I think I agree with that.
I could be wrong. I'm not going to hold to it very tight.
No,
Uh,
I do think I agree with that because I believe that we're known by our fruits. And so I do think that there is no way to really I think that there's fruit. I think everyone bears fruit, whether
mhm.
it's good fruit or bad fruit. So
Right.
I think, and the Bible says we know we'll be known by that, by our actions.
Mhm.
So I don't think that it's something that we can go through life claiming to be one way and then all of your life shows a different,
Right.
you know, trajectory or something.
I do. That's the word I was thinking. I do like what you said there, Frank. That this is a journey, or what's your trajectory here? Are you are you moving towards this, or are you moving away from it?
Yeah.
Because actions that come from a belief system, they do take time. Um, I don't want to just derail this, but I don't want to get too far away from that law of liberty. I came across this MacArthur little blurb on it. Um, James focused on its redemptive power, the law of liberty. He focused on its redemptive power in freeing believers from the bondage of sin and then freeing them to righteous obedience. Um, if you think about how in the Old Testament, he talks about, it's written in there about our righteousness being filthy rags, like our own good deeds.
Mhm.
Even the things that we do that are good are tainted by sin.
Yep.
Hmm.
Um, but what the law of liberty does is it frees us, Jesus, through the law of liberty. So John 8:34, Jesus answered them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who commits sin is a slave of sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. The son does remain forever. So if the son makes you free, you will be free indeed. And you're free when you're a son or a daughter of Jesus, you're free, like at every level. And also you're free to do righteous deeds for
Yeah.
him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps a little bit with that law of liberty. We have the liberty to live a righteous life through Jesus Christ.
Really, if you think about it, the Christian is the most free person that there is because you're no longer bound by sin where you can only serve, yourself. Now you're set free to serve Christ, but, you know, we live in this, but we also live in this period of God's grace where, he doesn't just cast us away when we fail and when we choose to sin too.
Mm.
So I feel like, man, if you want real freedom, you'd be a Christian because you're set free from sin and you're also, you know, God's grace and mercy isn't just going to cast us away when we do mess up and
Right.
when we do
Yeah.
fail.
It's interesting to me you use that word trajectory, Kent. I had that written down in my notes, that trajectory is more important than position.
Hmm.
It's kind of almost scary how much we think alike.
Yeah. Well, I remember hearing that term, I think probably 8 years ago
Yeah.
over there in, Glad Tidings when I was, trying to figure out what does this look like
Uh-huh.
and realizing that, trajectory that my life is really a series of, hills and valleys. It's not this, um, flat line. It's not a nice, perfect angle up even. It's really it's a really bumpy ride sometimes. But when I look back, several years, I can say, well, I'm glad I'm not who I was then,
Yep.
and I'm not who I'm going to be in 5 years.
Right.
But I'm really glad to be where I'm at.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I have a question about what doing is. I have a few thoughts or a few questions. Um, we were talking earlier about, um, Frank, you had went to church and you had heard the gospel truth. We had talked about drowning kind of in, all this good theology. And then how does practically this look in our lives to actually take this and actually ch- do something with all of this knowledge that we get. Um, and I wonder sometimes for myself, I really get hung up with the thought of having to do something as if it's become some sort of a workspace thing.
Mhm.
What if we're looking at that completely wrong? What if doing is more about our worship and our praise and our meditation and allowing the Lord to do something in us and not necessarily we right away think, I think humans are kind of hardwired to think that the closer we get, the more the Lord's going to do through us.
Yep.
What if it's more about what he's wanting to do in us and not even through us? What if he's more concerned about our worship and our thoughts being turned towards him than about going out and doing a bunch of stuff? What if our whole idea of doing is just backwards?
So going back to Romans 12, we're instructed to present our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe? Not sure. I
They're
just
pretty
know
s-
that when I think about doing things, uh, there's been seasons in my life where I'm just exhausted, and I'm just like, I need a break just because I've
Yeah.
been going, doing, and it's like can start feeling pretty distant from God,
Mhm.
even though you're doing all this stuff for Him, you know? And it makes me wonder if
Like, what are you
He's
talking
more
about doing?
concerned about what's that?
What are you talking about doing? Like going to church, small group?
Yeah, just leading, maybe leading small groups and
Yeah.
just doing different things. I mean, you name it. I think we've all probably been there where it feels like we're exhausted from some of that kind of stuff. It's just well, I'll be honest with you. I went to church this last Sunday for the first time in a long time and didn't serve. We just went to the second service and got up kind of, a little later and had a breakfast together, the fam and or
Yep.
whatever, just pretty relaxing morning. And I'm like, this is probably what most people's Sunday mornings look like.
Yep.
And I can't imagine like, most pastors and leaders. And I think we can all get sucked into that. We want to serve, and I think serving's good. I'm not here to throw cold water on serving and, being involved, but I just wonder sometimes if the Lord's more worried about the quiet time that I give him and the music that I listen to that might honor him, or like I don't know. Just maybe I should rephrase my question. What does doing look like for you two guys? What is that? What is What does being a doer of the word look like for you two?
I'll wait on Kent on this one.
You want me to take this one, Frank?
Yeah, I'll let Kent take this one.
Colossians 1 um, is an interesting passage. The whole the focus is so much on Christ, and this verse 28 and 29. Him we proclaim, warning everybody and teaching everyone with all wisdom, that we may present everyone mature in Christ. For this I toil, struggling with all his energy that he powerfully works within me. That verse has impressed me, I think, every time I read it. And partly because I don't know how this works. I wish I understood it better. Um, I don't know the answer to your question, Alex. I will say this, that when I'm able, so I believe that consistent devotion every day, and when I say devotion, I mean me setting aside time, 30 minutes or whatever every day, praying and reading the Bible. I believe that that is a part of a healthy Christian life. At least for me, I believe that. Now, that's doing, right? And that can be done from two different perspectives. I can come to that with the fact that I need education in the Bible. I need to learn what the Bible tells me. I need to pray because that's what the Bible has told me. I need to pray and talk to God. Or I can come to that with the desire to get to know a person in prayer and in Bible reading. Both, like, I pray to God, I'm speaking to him, and sometimes he speaks to me even in prayer. But I read the Bible with the desire to get to know him, and he tells me who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a different perspective for my worship to him in that moment. So what is I love what you say, Alex, because we can so quickly become people doing. This is cliche. People doing, not people being, not human beings, the human doings. And it's all good stuff. Like, it really is. It's great. It's stuff that needs to be done. I don't know.
So one of those, in reference to you talking about the two different ways that you can approach that, one of those ways is actually renewing your mind, right? The other way is just discharging a duty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What does the word tell you to do? It says be doers of the word, but what does the word say to do?
To worship one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It tells us we need to have a relationship with Jesus. That's what it tells us. And so I was thinking about you, Alex, when you went to that concert. What was it, Phil Wickham?
Oh man, that was great.
I see.
Yeah.
You didn't. There was nothing about that made you feel tired or used up. I mean, you came back.
I wish it would
When
have
we
went on
heard
all
about
night.
it,
It
we're
was
still
amazing.
hearing about it.
Yeah. I
See?
went to that same arena. I went to that same arena yesterday, and I'm very grateful to my buddy. One of my best friends gifted us 4 tickets to a hockey game, and I'm
Oh yeah,
very grateful for that. But I sat there during that hockey game. I'm like, this doesn't even come close.
I know
You
exactly.
know?
And see, to me, it's some of those things. I don't know what that means to be a doer of the word and not a hearer only, or a hearer. What's it say? You're supposed to be a doer. Anyway, can't get,
Get it right,
I
Frank.
can't even get it right, man. See, I'm not being a doer. But it has something to. I think you're onto something there, Alex, with what you said about it being part, in your meditation, in your worship, the music you listen to, all of that, the concerts you go to. I think that it has more to do with that than it has to do with you being a leader of a small group. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Go be a leader of a small group. But that may not be all of it, because I'm convinced that the main thrust of the Bible is that we need to worship Jesus.
I think leading small groups and serving at church and all of those things need to come as an expression of that overflow of what you've already found in that quiet time with the Lord and
Right.
that worship with the Lord. And this is now, you know, it's time for that to spill out on other people. But I think without, and I think I think that's what God's trying to tell me, guys, is like, I want to become spiritually mature. I really want to grow up spiritually. And I think that's what he's trying to tell me is that, Alex, you have to you want this passion. You want your faith to be alive and vibrant. You want to feel this passion. You want to feel alive when it comes to your relationship with me. But you want me to just make you feel that way without you actually shutting off those things that are distracting you and taking you away from it. I think
Yeah.
that's what spiritual maturity is actually, and being a doer of the word is giving that Lord your time, letting God be God in your life and giving him the time that he deserves and that he wants to actually have that relationship. You don't have a relationship with any other person in this life. Without giving them time and letting that grow and develop. And I think it's no different with Christ is in the Holy Spirit, like giving him that time in my life. And that's why I can get so frustrated. I can feel so dead. I can feel so just spiritually dead sometimes. And then when I start really taking a step back and looking at my life, I'm like, what do I expect? I can't blame this on God. I
Right.
haven't given him any of my time.
Yeah.
I haven't really shown any interest or love for him. So why do I expect him to just like set me up on cloud nine when I have literally been so distracted and got my face turned towards everything but him,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm convicted by that. I really am.
So this is you find yourself in that place where you're saturated with doing, you're saturated with all this good teaching. We need a 10-step outline here for getting out of this.
I give you a 1-step outline.
Okay.
Get to know Jesus better.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's where my head goes, I'm like,
yeah.
okay, now I got to figure this out. How can I get out of this?
Mm-hmm. So I don't know where the balance in all of this is because we're humans and we're on a journey and we're not going to get it all right all the time. And so we're going along and sometimes I don't know where the balance is in giving ourselves a little latitude and maybe being sometimes maybe you need to be hard on yourself. I don't know. But but I it made me think, okay, in religion and medicine, like you talk about a practicing Catholic or a practicing doctor or a practicing Methodist, and it's that word practicing. It means that they're not getting it all right all the time. I mean, you don't just do it. And so we're going along and there are going to be times when we realize we haven't been doing it right. And maybe there is no exact right way, but we make some changes and we keep going. And I don't know, there was something comforting about that to me that we're practicing Christians and we're not going to get it right and it's okay. And maybe there is no exact right in a lot of things. But I'm still hung up on this thing of the relationship with Jesus because I think that's where it's at. And in the thing that you said, Alex, in our worship, because I was thinking about my son. He's my little son. I don't expect a whole lot out of him, but I do expect him to do what I say. And that's about all there is to it. If I tell him to go feed the goats, well, I expect the goats to be fed, but I don't mind if he goofs off a little bit. Feeds the squirrel. He's got a squirrel out there he feeds all the time. And I think he likes the squirrel better than the goats, but I don't care if he feeds the squirrel, as long as he does what I say. And then, then he goes and plays for hours at a time. And I'm okay with that because I know when I tell him I need him to do something, he'll go do it. And I kind of like to think about my relationship with Jesus like that. I don't know if Jesus is like got my whole day laid out. You got to do this, and you got to lead the small group, and you got to preach the sermon, and sing the song, and read the Bible, and you got to do all of this stuff. Occasionally, I think he says, I think maybe just like you, Alex. He said, I want you to pray with this lady today. There's a lady coming. I want you to pray with her. And you're like, all right, I'll pray with her. And then that's good. And then I don't know, maybe he's not going to have something for you to do tomorrow. Maybe you're just going to sell a few buildings. You think that's an unhealthy way to think about it?
I think it's a very healthy way to think about it, Frank. And I'll be honest with you. I think sometimes we're our own worst critic. We're way too hard on ourselves. I think there's oftentimes, I think it's okay to just breathe and relax and give yourself some grace sometimes. I really do. I think sometimes this very topic can end up consuming godly men and women who love the Lord and really want to do what's right and can almost get in bondage about this kind of stuff. My recommendation, and I didn't hear the Lord, this isn't something that I really can, this isn't a thus saith the Lord, but my recommendation is turn on some 80s classic rock and enjoy life a little. Take some deep breaths and just cut loose and then just like breathe, just smile, enjoy some
Let
good
that Led
music.
Zeppelin hit a little bit.
Yeah, and then just it'll all be okay. I think oftentimes we get really, I can get really worked up about this kind of stuff. Like I really want to please the Lord. I really want to have that relationship with Him, and I can almost work myself into bondage over it sometimes. And I think you're right. Showing it, we need to, you know, don't put the oars in the boat and just float downstream expecting the stream to take you where you want to go. But at the same time, you could take a break every once in a while and rest and like not pull quite as hard and enjoy life. I think, ultimately we're not in control. Like we do the best that we can with what we've got. And we have to trust too that God's word is true, that He's given us the Holy Spirit to lead us and guide us and direct us in all truth. And we need to be obedient to that. But if your heart doesn't condemn you, man, don't create a bunch of condemnation in your heart trying to come up with stuff,
Yeah, for sure.
just breathe and relax a little.
So with what you're saying there, I think Kent's fixing to break out some wisdom here, but with what you're saying there, Alex,
That was not wisdom, by the way. That was verbal diarrhea of my mouth.
No, that's good stuff. Don't minimize your wisdom. But while you was talking, I had to think about if you've ever been around somebody who's really, really worried about doing everything right and about making sure that you're happy with them all the time, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
I don't like being around people like that. They need to chill out and not worry about it. And then sometimes I live my Christian life like that. And sometimes I wonder if Jesus is like, man, I wish you'd just go off. I don't even feel like being around you right now because you're all bent out of shape about everything and you're trying to do everything just right. And why can't we just hang out and listen to some little 80s rock or whatever you said
Exactly.
you were
I
supposed
think
to do?
I think he smiles every time that channel turns on. I think he likes it too, actually. It is the best music. It is hands down the best music ever created. I mean, it really
Oh,
is.
you're making me laugh.
It is the best genre of music, period, ever. So I'll just say that.
It's good stuff. What is it? So if Frank, you're talking about this uptight guy.
Yeah.
Alex talks about putting the oars in the boat.
Yep.
I'm trying to put all this together here.
So I'm waiting for you to do that. We need
Bring it together,
Alex and I've
Kent.
been
We
running our
need to
mouths.
wrap it up in
It's
a
not
minute. Bring it together, Kent.
the pieces aren't fitting together at all. I'm just trying.
We did it. Hey, look, we gave him some really bad puzzle pieces with oars in the boat and 80s rock, 80s classic rock. I don't know, Kent. You're gonna have to pull some magic out here and bring this on.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, we've got some great prescriptions here for people to take home with them. Yeah, I don't know.
Might be fusion.
I did think so. Frank, you used the word worried.
Yep.
And I think that like that kind of started my mind thinking, where does worry come from? Because that's really, Alex, what you're talking about. You're Man, am I doing enough? How can I do better? How can I do more? I mean, that's a form of worry, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And basically, worry comes from a fear of there's probably a really good description out there for or definition for worry. I'm trying to think if one of y'all have it, spit it out. It's a fear of not getting it right.
Yeah.
And if you're a child of God, he got it right.
Mhm.
And if you can let go of that worry of, am I doing the right thing? Like really, really let go and just enjoy life. Um, he's going to let you know if you screwed it up.
Yep. I think part of this worry thing, you said it's a fear of not getting it right, but I think even at an even deeper level, it's a fear of not being accepted.
Oh yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Hmm.
Because if you don't, that's the way I think. Like,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
am I
sure
enough?
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna screw
Yeah.
it up. I'm pretty sure I
Yeah,
won't get it right, and then when I don't get it right, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be accepted.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Am I gonna be enough? Am
And
I enough?
that's the opposite of the gospel.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And the truth is I'm not enough,
right. But he is, thank God.
but he is.
Yeah, amen.
So,
And for whatever reason, he chose me. And, that's really, really awesome.
yep,
He
what makes
stuck
it
me in that
amazing is
vine.
more. So, one other thing
Yeah.
I wanted to say here, Kent, you used the word passion a couple times, I think. And it's interesting to me, you can become extremely weary when you're doing something because you have to. But you get passionate about something, and man, when I'm passionate about something, I can stay up until all hours of the night working on it. And and it's not a problem at all because I'm passionate about it. And so that's I want to have that with my relationship with Jesus. And I'm not talking about like doing anything, but just being passionate about walking.
It is kind of interesting. It's been a rough day today. With some things I'm trying to figure out here at work. Like I was tired, mentally
Hmm.
shot by the end of the day, and just hitting it here talking with you guys. And I don't know, you kind of lit the fire, Frank, with that communion thing. Like I get really, really enthused when I realize where what we have.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I love it when the even the wet wood gets lit.
Yeah, I
God's good with
agree.
that. He can do it. He can send down some
Yeah,
lightning and burn it all up.
for sure. Oh yeah.
I got in a
Yes, sir.
discussion with another customer today on the way home, and you know how that is it went from I need a building for my lawnmower to we was talking about Netanyahu and the war in Iran and everything
Oh
else.
man.
And
You went
I
far.
oh man, but I mean I but I pointed him to, you know, the same I said I had a friend who says the solution's not politics, it's a person, and that person's Jesus. And so it was just, you know, a good reminder once again that he really is the solution to everything, you know, in a crazy world. Not only my own personal crazy that's going on or yours, but you know, in the actually the whole world, um, everything that's going on, it's just it's exciting to know that there's a solution to the whole world's problems.
Oh man, yeah.
So
Yeah. Puts things into perspective.
yeah, it's amazing. Well, guys, I'm gonna go. Good talking with
Yeah.
you all.
It's been good. Y'all
Yeah,
have a good
same.
night.
Enjoyed it.
We'll
Have a
see y'all.
wonderful evening. See y'all.
Offense to grace, how sweet the sound. The blood alone redeems. It frees the slaves and calls them sons. Fulfills the law's demands. Oh, yeah. It shatters all the old constraints, reveals a brand new day. I once believed I had to earn to keep you satisfied, but grace declared the work was done, the blood alone applied. Offense of grace, how sweet the sound, the blood alone redeems. It frees the slaves and calls them sons, fulfills the law's demands. Oh, yeah. The offense of grace will wreck your world, relentless and untamed. It settles all the old demands, leaves no debt to pay. From tables flipped in temple courts to the Pharisees' dismay, this grace offends, self-assured, and shakes the stronghold's core. Offensive grace, how sweet the sound, the blood alone redeems. It frees the slaves and calls them sons, fulfills the law's demands. Oh, yeah. From those who judge with stones in hand, to sinners brought to feast. Oh, this grace offends self-righteous pride, but sets the captive free. It's grace that breaks religion's chains, forgives the penitent. It lifts the broken from the dust, exalts the